those who have been the beneficiaries of this system.
About the future of black education. What's the state of black education?
Yeah, well, the state of black education depends on where you are and who you are. It can be very difficult. It can be very interesting. But what we need to understand is that black education is paramount. It's important. It's compulsory because we need our babies. We need our young people to be the best that they can be. So that means that we need our public schools and our teachers to be the best that they can be. That means that we need funding in our schools and we need to change these dilapidated buildings. It's about time that parents and communities start to stand up for the least of these. And sometimes those, the least of these, unfortunately, are our black children, our black boys and our black girls who get cast aside because of the color of their skin. And in a divide and conquer kind of political system, we need to make sure that we're very careful about what's happening with our schools.
When we look at black men in education, we look at the studies and we see that it is very small compared to what we see as far as white women in the classroom. So how do we begin to close that gap and also address one word we don't really use a lot, but we can still use the word segregation when it comes to our school system?
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you this. Black men make up about 2% of all educators in America. And so we've got a lot of work to do because what we also know in the research tells us that when our young black children see a black teacher early on in their formative years, they are more likely to graduate high school. They're more likely to go to college. They're more likely to take up a vocation because they can see themselves in an authoritative position, somebody who's not disciplining them, somebody who is not administering them, somebody who's teaching them every day science and math. And if you can get that kind of exposure early on, we know that all those things help. So we've got to double down in our HBCUs because we know that about 50% of all black teachers still come from these 101 schools around the country. And so we've got to double down in those schools of education, and even further than that, we've got to bring back the spirit and reverence of teaching.
But why are the numbers so low? Is it recruitment? Is it pay? Is it what is it? Why don't we have more black men in the classroom?
Well, it's all of the above. We can start with pay because black men want to be able to take care of their families and take care of themselves. And on the teacher pay, in many instances, you just can't do that, depending on where you live. And so you have black men that go into education, then they go into administration because they want to make money, because they want more responsibility, because they want to be looked upon and have the responsibility of an authoritative figure. And so we've got to do something that keeps our folks in the classroom, that steers our black men and our black women into the classroom and keeps them there. So those are the things that we can do. We can double down on education, we can double down on pay, we can double down on the benefits for teaching, and then we can really double down on the respect, because we're not respecting our profession nor our teachers like we should.
Lastly, I want to talk to you about the role and the power of black parenting. What does that, like, when you were talking about that on the panel, how can parents begin to even advocate for their children more?
Yeah, so the first advocation starts at home. The first and most important teacher that a child will ever have is their parent. And so you've got to make sure from the womb to the tomb, you got to educate those kids. You got to read to them. You can't let them go to pre-K with a 5,000 word gap between other students who are being read to, who are being talked to, who have these kind of conversations and they can express themselves at a very early age. And then once they get into schools, you got to go to PTA meetings. You got to go to PTO meetings, parent-teacher associations. You've got to talk to the principal about what you need and what you want. And as that kid goes through middle school and high school, we have so many politics that are trying to take away things in education like history. In Florida, they're taking away the AP African American history classes. They're taking away opportunities for DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And so they're doing these things, but parents still have the power. You can insist that your school, your child, and your teacher are giving a full and comprehensive lesson plan for your student. And so again, all the power is still with the parents and the communities. We just got to organize ourselves, formalize ourselves together, protect our teachers, protect our schools, and make sure that we're getting what's due to our students.
All right, you heard it here. If people want to get more information, where can they go to just keep track of and abreast of the issues and what the organization is doing?
Absolutely. We have a website, aft.org, and we're on all social media platforms at the same thing, at AFT, the American Federation of Teachers. And if you want to go to my Twitter or X or whatever it's called, it's at Fed Ingram. And so we certainly appreciate that, but we want people to be engaged. We want them to be informed. We want them to love our babies and support our babies and fight for them.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here at AFT all across social media. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you.